What's up, you guys? Welcome to another awesome episode of Hit Confirm. I'm one half of this sick combo, joined by my lovely host, Case. Start that over.
Yo, the Casey and Casey show?
then
That's how you feel?
go, go. Start it over.
Yo, nah, we gonna keep it rolling, man. Yo,
Oh
but
no.
since my co-host wants to be so
No, we
graceful,
doing better. I love you, co-host.
I'll
Host.
coach the other half of the Hit Confirm. Oh man, but today we got a very special guest, Benny, aka NitroNoodlez, training mode maestro, a man known to establish a strong identity with his characters and show the effective play of them pretty early and throughout their life. So, Vinny, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
What's up? My name is NitroNoodlez. Just call me Vinny, please. That's what everybody in the scene does anyway. Nobody calls me by my tag. Um, I mostly play anime games. I've been playing competitively probably, let's say, almost 10 years-ish or so. I started with Blaze Blue Calamity Trigger. Uh, Probably not the best game to start with on your fighting game career, but hey, it is what it is. Um, Before then, I mostly just messed around by myself with different games. Training mode, mashing, stuff like that. I didn't really know what I was doing, but hey, before you join the scene, I think everybody's kind of like that. So,
So I guess like straight off, it's like just off that story. Like you said, like you didn't know what you were doing before you really joined the scene. Did you feel like you came up with like anything interesting, useful, practical, like throughout the training mode before you joined the scene, or was it the I guess people meeting the people and seeing the way things are done that really gave you the spark to really become, you know, efficient in training mode?
I think it was more so the latter, because, I mean, without knowledge, you don't really know what's effective, per se, in practical application. So I mostly just did it for the sake of self-satisfaction. It was just fun. But seeing what people could like actually do, like watching strong players, what they could actually do in matches, gave me the inspiration to actually start playing. Um, I would say who really influenced me. I would want to say I came across some back in the day when I was playing BBCT. I came across a little channel known as Game Chariot. I don't know if anybody's familiar with
Oh yeah,
that.
oh
I
yeah.
didn't know about that.
Back in the days of the 240p videos, early YouTube, uh, I was just watching players like Soji, Dora, a lot of the Japanese players, and I was like, yo, what are they doing? And I had no clue how they were doing it. I was like, dude, I want to do that shit. And that's kind of where it all began.
I feel like that's a lot of people's story. Get like, yo, I saw something cool. I want to do that too. Very simple and straight to the point.
I mean, that's what fighting games are about, right? You just want to do the cool stuff. That's why we
You,
play it.
yeah, that's where you get like that inspiration from to like hit up training mode. And you're like, man, I gotta figure this out, like how to actually do this.
And then once you hit it, like the feeling is like the best in the world. Like you just
It
feel
is.
yourself. It's all worth it. That makes it all worth it.
Yeah, to me, it's always been like a puzzle, like problem solving. It's just like you said, it's like this satisfaction when it's like this thing was giving me trouble, or I didn't understand how that worked, and then you do afterwards. It feels really good.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of the I would say the essence of a fighting game is you're presented with like a series of problems, and then you can grow and improve by problem solving. That's basically what I like to think of training mode as. It's like a lab, so to speak, and then you got this your problem, and then you test out your hypothesis, and then you just mess around, and then you go back into some matches to test that hypothesis, and then you see how it works out and stuff. Then you can probably draw some conclusions, but those conclusions, they're not set in stone, just like most things in fighting games. Then you go back to the lab, and then you kind of repeat it until you get it down pat. It becomes second nature. No, it's like the science experiments you did in like school and stuff. It's just like that.
I mean, you pretty much drew down the scientific method, which I feel like that's the kind of thing people kind of miss out on when they think of what do I do in training mode.
Yeah, because you have all these tools in training mode that's like the main menu, and you get to go through that and see what all you can find with those tools. It's that's pretty interesting way to put it, like using it as a as a lab. I've never actually really heard people say that. Like I've heard people say lab, but not actually put it into actual context.
I mean, I think
Oh,
that's why we say you go to the lab, right?
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I always took it literal. I don't know about anything else.
Nah, I really
And-
like the way you put it though.
But yeah, you put it eloquently.
Like you come up with the hypothesis, and then you come up with a solution. Then you test the hypothesis. Did it fail? Did it pass? Then you rework again, and then each time it gets stronger and more consistent.
Yeah, because I mean, if we think about it, fighting games are an exercise in critical thinking, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, doing a scientific method, to help that critical thinking, and then confirm it is like, it's kind of. I mean, I would think it should be common sense, but not most people don't
No.
necessarily think like that. So
Hey man, that's why we brought you here though, because like we say that kind of jokingly, but you say it's obvious or maybe common sense, and like to me and to others, yeah, we look at that as like here are the problems, here's how you solve it, but to others it's like to them it's like they go into a lab, they see the beakers, they see the weird chemicals, they see all the weird burners and tools they don't know how to use, and their heart starts racing. Like, what is this? What do I do with this? And they start just pouring stuff in. I don't know if this is right because they didn't start with a problem, they didn't have a process, and they end up getting overwhelmed, and they sometimes you just skip it entirely outside of like maybe grinding combos.
yeah, and that's a pretty big pitfall a lot of people fall into,
They they
unfortunately.
they end up picking like the tools that they're familiar with and just stick to that.
Yeah, and I think that comes with just like habits built up over time and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody has habits, but when you kind of just fall back into the stuff you're familiar with, your bad habits get how do I want to say? They get more pronounced, and then your good habits generally kind of tend to fade away over time. Like you don't really end up developing like new processes of thinking or using new tools or using the same tools in different ways.
Makes sense. I feel like what I end up seeing from many players, I'm probably there's some people who might listen to this. That's me. He's talking about me. But they go in there and they're like, I can't. I don't know if this works. I don't know if this, if I'm doing it right. And then at the end of the day, like you said, they just stay in that comfort zone using the same thing over and over again. And for a lot of players, with the way online is set up, there's like maybe like 50 to 60% bunch that you can just kind of roll the same basic tactics on over and over again before you really have to think. And so you develop a real comfort with that. And so when you have to when you have to start challenging yourself and adding new tools and start thinking, man, I gotta lose in a way that I've never lost before. I gotta be uncomfortable and lose anyway. So some people, they retreat to that comfort like, well, I might as well just lose with the stuff that I already know how to do. But then they still get frustrated instead of like thinking in the long term like, okay, I'm messing this up because I'm trying something new. They don't think of it that way. They think, man, I failed, that must not be right.
Yeah, and that's the thing with like training mode, right? Is like it is okay to fail. This isn't school. You're not being great. You're not being great. You're not gonna get hit with a fat F if you take like a bunch of L's and whatnot. Especially if you're doing it on your own time at home. That's what the practice is for. So it's okay to lose. Nothing in training mode. You shouldn't expect it to work out immediately. Like if you're seeing immediate results, either what you're doing is somehow really godlike, um, you're not playing strong enough opponents, or you just got really lucky. Don't expect anything you practice for like 10 minutes to immediately work out, right? Like that's the whole point of training mode. It's a routine. You got to work at it. Just think of it like exercise. Like you're not gonna get buff in like what, a week or two. No, it's something you got to build up over time. Um, and if anything, um, the fact that you're taking L's and it's not working out immediately should, motivate you um to when you do get those results. Um it's a lot of people, I want to say it's pride, but also it does feel bad to lose. But as long as you know that you're getting something out of it, right? It's okay. Like
Um,
you gotta accept the losses. It takes time.
so I wanted to get right to this because I know like you are like one of the rare people that do. Like I know Japanese players do this a lot. Once they identify something that they lost to in casuals, once like their set is done or whatever, you go straight to training mode. Like you might go to the side and pull up like on a set that's like that nobody's on. You go straight to training mode and you like try to figure it out. And not a lot of people do that. But like what does that eventually for you to like really like click and go, all right, I need to go in training mode and test this out.
So it's like what Coach said. It's like a long term thing. If I play like a super long set
Mm-hmm.
and I notice something's giving me a problem, I have to go into training mode because that's that one set. It's short term. If I go around and play like another long set the next day, I might actually forget what just happened. I mean that's a good thing about replays. But when
Right.
it's fresh in your mind, it's so much easier because you already have the problem identified. You know the situation because it literally just happened, and then you just go back into the lab and play it out. You know what happened because it literally just happened. So you just go in, record it, see what works, write down some notes. Next time you'll have a baseline for for your responses to that situation. Otherwise, if I don't go into the lab immediately, I'm definitely gonna forget because between all the stuff that you gotta memorize in fighting games and then other real life stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's a set you play is gonna be short term, but the solutions you can come up with in training mode, those are for the long term, and that's one of the benefits of muscle memory, is that muscle memory is long term. If you take what you just were faced with and develop responses to it, maybe even, I don't know, you don't even have to do it like every single day, but maybe a couple times a week. You'll start to build that muscle memory, and it'll go from something that happened in a set that was short term into something that's long term, and you can respond to it immediately.
Yeah, I feel like that's like the perfect advice for the people who are struggling with the quote unquote wild players because
Oh yeah.
like they don't know what's punishable or what they gotta respect or what they don't have to respect because they don't go and research it. They just like accept that this player's gonna be nutty and I'll try to fight him and I get frustrated, and I feel like that's another big frustration point because they don't know what is high risk for the opponent because they don't look at it, and then it's like a repeating cycle over and over again, and it's really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, if you fight a nutty player, like you don't know what they're gonna do. Honestly, they might not even know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's
So
why you have to go to training mode and like you said, like answer the questions for yourself, you know.
yeah, because they just bombard you with a bunch of just like stuff that looks random, and it becomes overwhelming. Like regardless of whether you win or not, if it becomes nutty and scrambly, like there's gonna be bits and pieces like that you're missing out on. That's the reason why it became scrambly, right?
Yep.
You don't really know how to respond to it, so there's just a bunch of stuff happening. So if you don't like replicate that and find responses immediately, uh, the same thing is very likely to happen again, even if it's with a different player. Like it doesn't even have to be the same player. As long as you're presented with that situation and it's like super scrambly, ooh, good luck.
Yeah, I could have said that better myself. I'm trying to think. So just kind of rewinding this just a little bit. So you get a game and you have a character you're not very familiar with.
Hmm.
What is your step by step when you first I'm in training mode. Here we are. What are we doing?
So for starters, I hit all the buttons, literally. I hit all the buttons so I can like familiarize myself with their normals. Um, I don't really look at frame data at the first thing because I think that's like too much information. But I generally go over like one the ground pokes, then the anti-airs, then the air-to-airs, and then what are the fast attacks I can use. Then I'll mess around with those, try and gauge their ranges. Um, Even though I might not know like how to apply it against like every single character, and at least get a general idea what their buttons may do and what I how to place them essentially. Like I just look at placement, not stuff like counter poking and stuff. It's stuff you do later.
Okay.
But buttons are probably the most important, especially the anti-airs. Because if you can't anti-air with a character, uh, it's gonna be your matches are gonna be super rough. And then from there, I do like probably just like basic bread and butters. If they have like a mix-up tool, like an overhead or something, I'll try and look up a combo for that if they have that. If not, then I'll see what they can get off a throw. Then I go from there. From there I'll just go and play some matches and mess around.
You mean to tell me you go to training mode and the first thing you don't do is combos? What is wrong with you?
Well, to be honest, I'm not a big combo guy. Like I definitely practice combos a lot, especially recently since I've been picking up Johnny.
Right.
Super combo heavy. Probably more combo heavy than any other Guilty Gear character I played. But I mess around with his buttons more. Like the combo stuff will come with time. It's super important. Because it's something you can practice on your own, right?
Right.
Nobody's gonna get their combos down immediately. At the very least, you can hit some buttons immediately.
Yeah, yeah, that's something I actually started noticing because I picked up Johnny too, and I actually did the opposite of what I usually do. I went straight for the combos rather than the buttons just to try something different. And what I noticed when I actually tried to play people was like, well, I can't hit anybody, and it's like. Like before, it's like let me figure out how to hit people because with Faust, I just wanted to learn how to hit people, and even if I was messing stuff up, and when you learn how to hit people, it's much easier to transition to okay. Now let's put the combos in. Now that you know how to hit people, you know how to get the counter hit, you know how to get the anti-air. Now add on the damage. You know, get in there and lose because you have to guess 20 times trying to hit somebody. But once you get the logic down, and then you put the combos on top of it, I feel like that's an easier transition in the long term for me.
Oh, yeah, I agree. It's not gonna be the same for everybody, but I would say start with what is easiest for you first, even if it's combos, and you can transition to normals later. If that's your prerogative, then hey, go for it. The whole goal is not to make things like super difficult. It's to make it easier. Because if it's easier for you, then you retain the information better. Simple as that.
Yeah, that's some great advice. You know, learn the best way you can, and what is your best way of going about things. Because I feel like, you know, I'll let Casey jump in after this, but I feel like another frustration point for people is that someone gives them advice like do this, and then they try to do it like exactly as they were told, and then they get frustrated because they can't quite do it. Instead of like sitting down and say, let me break this down and figure out how I want to learn it, how I want to do it.
Hmm.
So I was gonna say like how when you go to training mode and you cause you go to hit the menu, what is the first thing you look for as soon as you press start?
That's a good question. The very first thing I look for is how many recording slots do I have?
You one of those people.
How many recording slots do I have? And then second, what are the CPU's reversal options, if any? What are their block options? What are the character specific settings I got? So I when I first hit training mode, I look for like almost the game specific stuff. That's the thing I look for. So let me give you an example. The first time I booted up Skullgirls, I went into training mode, and I looked for like the Skullgirl specific options, and I was like, do they have frame data counter? That's the first thing I pulled up. Do they have a hitbox viewer? They do. That's the first thing I pulled up. I was like, okay. Are there any reversal options? No. Alright, what's the recording look like? How many recording slots do I have? I have one. Or I think it's between like 1 to 3. But the caveat to that game is that it has a save state, which is super super cool. So what you can do is you can do a recording, and you can actually combine it with a save state. So say I'll do an example one I did recently. Valentine has this vial, these poison vials that have different effects, and she has one that I like to call the SNK net code, which if she hits you with it, it gives you up to 9 frames of delay on your opponent's inputs, which makes it harder to defend, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So you can end a combo in that, and then record it in the save state. And once you hit that refresh, you know how like every game has like a share button or whatever or select that resets you? It'll reset you to that exact same position. So your opponent will be poisoned, they'll be knocked down, and you'll be in the corner. So you can save that state and then record like multiple like mix-ups or setups and stuff. And you don't have to like knock them down over and over again. You can just hit the select button. They're in that exact same position. It's so godlike.
Oh, that's really really good.
It's so dope.
I wish more games would do that because like you know how most games you gotta do like this specific combo into this certain setup to get to that
Hmm.
just to that spot. It's like no, I want to get to that specific setup. So
Yep.
that's awesome.
Yep. You skip right to that part that you want, and then you can build your responses to that part, and just like it's so good for just like layering and building like off of situations. It's super cool. I
So you
love
made
that.
me realize something. Why most people, or I don't want to say most people, why some people have used the excuse of why they don't go to training mode. It's because of that time used. Guilty Gear was a good example. Whenever I ask people like Eddie Moo example, he's like, "Yo, Guilty Gear is sick and everything." You know, and me and people were like, "Why aren't you playing it? It's too much you got to learn. It's too much like train you got to do in training mode." And I was like, "Man, things like what you said for Skullgirls can cut time immensely, and that's what like I would like to see for more fighting games is finding a way to make training mode where it can cut time. You know,
Yeah, yeah. The time is a big factor. Some games it does take a while to, especially with a lot of older games, to like figure out the training mode, set up situations and stuff. And it does become time consuming. Um, to that those people who don't have a lot of time, I would say just think of it kind of like a workout. Do like your little 30-minute or whatever if you want to record or train with like each day, and just work on that slowly, step by step. The thing about training mode is like you don't have to rush everything at once. Like the game is still there. I know we get a lot of patches and stuff, whatnot these days, but when you're in training mode, like the training mode's still gonna be there. So take your time. That's the important part. Like if you try to rush things, you're not gonna retain information. As well. That's the whole point of training mode is to retain information. So you gotta go at your own pace. Some people are really quick at it, at picking up stuff and can like fit in a lot of things in like one training mode session. Others not so much. Me for example, I can't fit in a bunch of stuff at one time. That's why I'm constantly going back to the lab. So I do it piece by piece.
I mean, that's how you do it, man. Brick by brick to build a foundation. But yeah, like you said earlier, like some people are fast, but comparing yourself to other people is like a poison, and it'll eat you alive every time because you'll start. Because I've seen plenty of people they'll start the game as somebody else, and then that other person, they'll rush ahead, they'll figure out the combos, the best punishes, and then while they're still catching up, they're like, "Am I dumb? Am I worthless? Am I bad?" In reality, is perfectly fine. Like you mentioned, is to go at your own pace to learn at your own rate. It is perfectly fine. You'll reach the same destination, just do it the best way you can, because if you try to rush ahead, stumble ahead, it's just going to all be confusing constantly, and then you'll start getting intimidated or even getting anxiety from training mode. I've seen that a lot.
yeah,
Yeah,
having
that,
those small goals and it's kind of like what we were mentioning in other podcasts. Like if you have a small goal, like in an actual match, you can do the same thing in training mode. Have a small. I know it can be overwhelming looking at like the main menu and you have all these record and save slots and everything. But just like Vinny said, like you don't have to do that all in like one sitting or one day. Just go have a small goal, see what you want to do with it, and go take it from there.
Yeah, it's just like how you're playing matches. You kind of work on these small things you want to refine in a match. You got to take the same mindset in the training mode. So I mean, they go hand in hand. Like training mode, um, there's two types of things you can work on in training mode. There's one player refinement, which is stuff like combos, setups, execution, things like that. Optimizing conversions. The alley thing, that be optimal. That thing.
Right, right.
And then there's a two-player refinement, which is like stuff like your neutral stuff, defense, things like that, things that you really can't do alone. Which, if you think about it like that, like there's no way you can rush training mode, right? If
Right.
training mode requires two things, one player refinement and then two-player refinement, you you can't rush it because you need matches, right? So it's naturally gonna take time. I mean, you can fit in all the one-player stuff you want in a day, but if you don't have that two-player refinement to go with it, then it's only gonna amount to so much. And like the two-player refinement definitely takes more time because you gotta go out and find people to play. You gotta play against different people, different matchups. You know,
For
I
sure.
mean that could be very easy and simple to learn. In a game like I guess Grand Blue, that's a little more simple. It's a little easier to get that down. And then you got like games like Guilty Gear where there's so much stuff to learn, where it's gonna take time. But the thing is, like the two-player refinement, you can't rush it because that's more information overload. Like it's more on the mental stack than the one-player stuff, right?
Right.
Because I mean, say if you run it, you want to learn how to fight a character, you got to play against multiple people of that same character. So I mean, naturally, it's gonna take more time. Take your time, man.
Yeah, like you just never know how some person will interpret a tool a character has. So like a lot of people get into this trap where they play the same person over and over again for a character, and they think they know it all, and then they play somebody else who's like, I've never seen them use that button that way. So that, like you said, you go on out and get that experience to see just how many ways you can interpret and apply this tool will give you a lot of heads up in how to deal with it.
Yeah, 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 certainly. Um, yeah, it's like we were saying. A lot of people don't know how to use training mode, but no, you got to think of it in like parts, like just like a match. There's no way you can just rush it. Um, Things like combo practice, like super important, right? Um, but there's other things you can do in training mode, like exploring hitboxes. Um, like we said, problem solving. Come up with a situation that you immediately faced and then replay it out. A good thing to help retain information is just like, I know not everybody does this, but for me personally, I write down a lot of notes. Um, just as a way to keep what I had in mind, and if I need to go back to it, I can always have it in my notes and revisit it. Or if I need to move on to something else, then I know it might be time. I know some people like I'll just put this out there, like Fame. My man has like a photographic memory. He doesn't write notes. He just memorizes everything. And if that's what works for you, by all means, go for it. Whatever works out best for you.
Yeah, yeah, different approaches work for different people. Like, actually, I became a big note taker because of you. Because back
Oh,
early on in Zerd Sign, you were sending me some of your million notes. I'm like, oh, this makes sense. And so I would take a lot of notes, and a lot of times I would even never have to go back to them, but just the taking of the notes cemented a lot of ideas in my mind about how X, Y, and Z worked, and that helped me a lot.
yeah, for some people, writing stuff, not even having to look back at it, but the act of writing something physically helps them retain it. So it's this little bit of muscle memory so to speak, going with the long-term memory.
Yeah. I'm a visual learner, so I have to like actually physically see it happening to me, or I'm interacting with something on screen, and then I like remember it that way. And that's and that's like a lot of people feel like if you write something down, like there are some players I talk to, they feel like being a visual learner is kind of like a bad thing, which is not. Um, and also it's okay to write some stuff down. Don't be like discouraged because they have like these scientific players like Vinny who will write stuff down. Like uh, it's okay to, if you visually see something and you don't have a chance to write it down right away, it's okay. But sometimes like what I would do, what helps me a lot, because I'm starting to be kind of a hybrid, is if I see something and I want to retain it for later, but I have like so much stuff going on that I want to do myself in training mode and just other things in life, I'll like DM myself on Twitter, this such and such work, so I'll put this, remember to remind myself that way.
I'll be honest, I am jealous of the visual learners because those are the type who can watch a video and just like replicate it like perfectly. And there's so many videos out now that you got all the Twitch streams and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'm a person who has to watch the same video, hit that back button, like back the last 10 seconds like 30 times to understand what happened. And then I might have to just like write it down. Because I'm probably going to forget it, I'll be honest. Like my memory is not the best when it comes to just like visually seeing stuff. Which is weird because I think most people think that scientific players are like that. They can just like, oh, look at something and then just like immediately replicate it. Not the case. I wish I was like that. The people that are like that, you are blessed because you have the greatness of the internet and YouTube on your side.
Yeah.
Well, like what you said actually just reminded me of something else. I keep pointing out I've seen these players do this, but I want to keep trying to point that out. So if somebody sees that and they're not sure and they're uncomfortable, hopefully they can get some information and stuff there. But what you were saying, like I have to do this. My memory's not that great. A lot of what I see is people go, I'm not X player, I'm not Y player, I can't do that. And it's like you actually can. And and like we were mentioning before, you got to do it at your own pace, find your own learning style, but just understand that not like even the best of us, we still struggle with stuff. Like we still come across problems that might take us weeks to solve,
Yep.
or we're not, even the best players are not infallible. They come across things that they struggle with, and they got to work through that struggle. But the working through the struggle in itself is something that gives you strength. And like when you see these people, they're like, man, they can just go from game to game. It's not necessarily because they're hyper intelligent. It's because they built those how would I say, mental workouts through training mode, through struggling, through figuring out problems, and then they go, okay, this is just the same set of problems with a different design or something like that. So when you go to game, you don't necessarily have that game knowledge, but you have knowledge of how to solve problems, how to discover problems. And so like go through stuff, do the hard stuff, struggle, and then over time that'll reward you in any game you play.
Yes, that is 100% true. Um, like even top players like had to do that. I remember watching Omito when he first started Grand Blue Versus with Narmaya. My man's was struggling. My man was actually struggling. My man was losing to everybody, and this is the best Guilty Gear player in the world, mind you. And then a couple months later, I saw because I've been watching his progress throughout the game. A couple months later, he posted like a Twitch to Twitter that got like a ton of like retweets and likes. He was just like perfectly spacing out this Catalina, with punishing everything, and like on reaction and everything. And mind you, this was before Catalina got nerfed. So, I mean, this was Queen Catalina. I remember seeing James Chen tweet at Omio, and he was like, "I wish I could do this. I wish I could. I'm just so old." And then Omito responds, "No, you can definitely do this." He said, "All I did was practice a bunch."
Yeah.
He said all I did was practice the spacing. That's literally all I did. And James Cheney's like, nah, I can't do it. And Omito's like, no, you're a god. You can do it. I can do it.
And,
Anyone can do it.
and see, that's it right there. And that what both the like scientific, like having to write everything down on paper, and what visual learners all have in common, or what they like, how they get better, is accepting something when they see it. It's like when I see something as a visual learner and I see that it happened, I'm like, all right, I have to accept that this is happening in that moment. And same thing for the person who goes back to training mode real quick. It's like accept that this happened to me in this moment, and I'm gonna go to back to training mode, write this down, go back to training mode later, and deal with it. Like accepting it is so powerful in like fighting games, because then you get what you do is you move on. You identify a problem, like you said, and you can test it. And once you test it, you're like, oh, it only works in this situation, etc. It's like you become more familiar with something once you accept something. So that one way, when you run into it again, you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't just have this way of beating it. I have like multiple ways of beating it, multiple ways of like dealing with like this character's like easy recovery on the DP. Like I have multiple ways of like dealing with the BS of this game, because you just simply accepted it and you went to, you did the training mode, and then you found out what how to deal with it.
Yeah, and that's something you can do in every game. Like the training mode may vary between games, but there's usually some way to replicate that. That's all what refinement is about, really. Like that's how you refine it. Another thing is like you can't be afraid to talk with other players and reach out of how to explain things, because I mean, as good as training mode is, it's not your only resource. Other players can also, be resources as well. They can essentially be your training mode. So, I mean, if an answer is out there, you can ask for it. If not, you can try yourself or work with other people. So, I mean, you can definitely you use your environment, so to speak, to help you out in training mode. I think that's where a lot of people might trip up as well, is that, like you were saying, like people think, oh, Guilty Gear is so hard, blah, 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 blah. I got to do all this training mode. I got to do all this. I got to do all that. No, you got a lot of people who've been there, who've done that before. There's resources out there. There's people that can help you. So, I mean, you're not alone in doing it. And the other benefit of that is that it also saves time. So if you're pressed for time, that will definitely help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're your cheat sheet.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you're not playing, man, because like, that's I mean that's why people make these character discords and stuff like that, and they may not always fulfill their purpose, unfortunately, but that's the core
Mhm.
concept of why they're made. Is so like you have this knowledge, I have this knowledge, so we don't have to burn ourselves out trying to figure out every single little thing. You know, Vinny's, we're playing. If I'm a biking player, Vinny's a biking player. He knows the Johnny Master to a T, and I know the Soul Master to a T. We don't gotta both learn both. I'd be like, yo, if you go against Soul, here's some good punishes. Oh, yo, okay. If you go against this character, you do this, okay. And don't be afraid to ask that kind of stuff. Or like you said, when you're first starting a game, like what do I look for? What are the things that'll work, or what are things that should I avoid? And like I'm trying to put this the friendly way, but if you struggle with taking other people's advice, like don't be. That's to me. That's another reason to use training mode. Somebody gives you advice, go try it out, because they may not be right, or there may be some context to it they're not giving, or they may be exactly right. But either way, you can submit the solution to the problem or eliminate a solution to a problem. So like if you're feeling doubts at what somebody's telling you, go in training mode and try it out. It's simple.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I was actually about to say that too. Like, if you don't believe so, then, hey, you can try it yourself.
Yeah,
So,
and one piece of tech that's kind of like, I guess, new in terms of social media that we people are started using, even if you don't have the time, I guess, to hop in a character Discord, is pay attention to the hashtags if you have a Twitter. Pay attention to the hashtags of like whatever game you're looking at. They might have the character's hashtag there, and next time if you have a question, just enter that question on Twitter and just put the hashtag there for that character. you will be surprised how many people like who don't follow you or you don't follow will pop up and give you advice on that character.
Hmm. Yeah, that's actually exactly right. Um, no, and going off of that hashtag, you might even discover, you know, something new yourself. Hey, they might discover something new. You know,
Yeah.
the community might come together and you can like put multiple heads together. Like that's kind of how like you build a character, so to speak.
It's not a one man deal.
No, it's not a one. It really sucks when it's a one or few man deal. I've been through that. Um, it's definitely a struggle. You can get some self satisfaction out of it, but having more people to talk with is always nice. Like even if they don't share like your exact same viewpoints on the same things, like just getting different perspectives, kind of like helps you branch out, especially when you go back to training mode. So you can look at something a little differently, and then try a different response, and then from that response you can branch out and say, hey, maybe I can do this. Oh, maybe I can do this from here. Maybe I can do that. Maybe this, and this might work, etc., etc. That's I mean that's how my brain works. I become super scatterbrained in training mode.
Oh man, I call that the chain reaction. Like I went into training mode to look at X situation, and then I figured out a solution. I go, wait a minute, that looks similar to this situation, and then I go and like, okay, if I modify it a little bit, it works here. And then like it's like the Wikipedia effect where you start on like looking at wild boars, then you end up at like aerospace travel, and you don't know how you got there. But training mode says to operate like that. Like you go to an idea, then that idea spawns another idea, and it's like a chain reaction. It's a really cool thing.
Mhm.
And you're having fun. That's the whole point, right? You're having fun while you're doing that. I don't know. For me, I'm having fun once I go down like the rabbit hole of training mode.
I agree. It
Don't
can be
take it
hard
too
to have
serious.
fun though if you don't know what you're doing, and I think that's where a lot of people struggle. Like you go in there. Like I talked to one of the players in Georgia who was a Street Fighter player, and I was like, "Do you ever laugh?" He's like, he basically looked at me. He's like, "If I go into training mode after 30 minutes, I'm done. Like I don't want to be in here. It's not fun. It's anxiety inducing. I just have to go play matches. Like I can't do it." And I think it's just because it's like he didn't have a structure. He didn't know have a way to do things in training mode that made it interesting or fun for him.
So to structure his training mode, the very first thing you need to do is replicate your mindset when you go into an actual match. So for me, for example, I throw up a playlist. I treat it like a workout, like at the gym, right? I will
Yep.
throw up a playlist, even if it's not like the same playlist all the time. I just throw up whatever song or whatever, and then I go into training mode, and I may practice such and such for a couple of minutes on this song, switch over to another song, practice this and this to that song, blah 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 blah, right? But that's my formula for making training mode fun. Um, I had to replicate the exact same mindset is when I play actual matches to make it fun. And if you don't want like a standing CPU there or whatever, start recording stuff. Set the dummy to just like run around with stuff. Hell, let the CPU control the dummy. That makes it exciting for you. I've done that.
Do you
Hey
find
man.
out so many stuff when you
Like,
let the CPU go like very hard or something, and they just do
yeah,
some one frame move? You're like, wait, that's
yeah,
possible?
yeah. And you just make it fun. Like, just make it fun. Like for me, I had to throw on music when I go into training mode. It doesn't have to be the game music. I just replicate how it is in matches, and that makes it fun for me. Like that's the problem. Most people don't know how to not just training mode, but how to like get the mindset of going into training mode.
Okay.
If whatever you do in matches, what you find enjoyable in those matches, do it in training mode, even if it's like outside the game, right? Hell, if you like, you know, scarfing down a bag of chips while you're playing matches, do the same thing in training mode. I mean, I wouldn't advise that for health reasons.
Oh no,
Wait,
what I
what?
usually do is like I'll do like push-ups if I don't get like a certain setup right, and I'll try to get like at least 4 or 5 reps like consecutively at like the same time. If I don't get it, Then I was like, gotta start over, do push-ups. If I don't get it again, start over, do push-ups.
So basically what we're saying is like build yourself an environment that you know that you can function in. Like if you need those scented candles, pina colada,
Hmm.
you know you got your Hawaiian music in the background, and you playing your lawn chair. Do that in training mode.
Yeah, man, I'm blasting Toho music and drinking cider when I'm in training mode. I do the same thing in matches, and it works for me. So I mean, you just gotta recreate that environment that makes it fun.
Like you said, you don't have to do nothing too complicated, right? You could do something like maybe I want to see how strong this jab is, so let me put the computer on random and let them do random stuff, and I'll just press jab when they get close to me. If it hits something, whoa, I'll just learn something new. If it doesn't, then you don't have to do something too complicated.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like something like I see people like is super intimidated. It's like sometimes it's okay to just open up their hit training mode, hit recording number one, have the character do a jump in, and then practice animating it. That can get you started. You don't have to be anything like like here's the fifth layer of this setup. You ain't got like a lot of people try to jump into that right away. Like you made the workout references. Like you don't have to deadlift 500 pounds when you first get in
Oh
there.
no.
You'll probably hurt yourself.
That's so true.
yeah.
You
My
got
my my
uh,
my advice, when you're going into training mode is, especially if you're picking up a new character, like try to identify the types of goals the characters have in neutral, and also try to identify how the character wins. Um, Once you identify that, that definitely helps your training mode sessions, become more efficient because you can, figure out how do I get to that win condition, how can I get to this goal in neutral, you know. Um, Obviously this is gonna vary between the games, the characters and whatnot, but that's a good starting point to consider, especially if you're doing like, your one player type of training mode stuff. I would advise doing that.
no, that's
That
actually perfect for that. Kind of leads into like the two-player side kind of stuff too, because
Yeah.
once you understand how a character wants to win, then you can kind of categorize what kind of each player how they approach that win condition. Like, wait, this player likes to go right in just so they can get the hit and get that combo, or this player is
Mhm.
very methodical on how they like approach the matchup. Is I think that's perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. What Vinny was saying earlier is like you watching matchups, being in those discords. Those another ways you can get those win conditions. Like it's not just a singular effort.
yeah, it's definitely more food for thought. Um, just to like go off on a little tangent about that. A lot of people don't know how to like structure that win condition, or structure their one player stuff. Like say like their offense, right?
Hmm.
Um, I would advise one looking at the universal defensive mechanics, because those are going to be presented. Every single character is going to have that. Those mechanics vary by game to game. But when you're playing that game, everybody's gonna have that. So say, I don't know, Guilty Gear for example. Everybody has backdash. Everybody can mash. Everybody can jump. We all know how strong fuzzy jump is. Uh, Pretty much everybody has a reversal, even if it costs meter. We have like guard cancels in the game, and then you have stuff like FD, instant block. Um, you should probably start with the more simple system mechanics, like say backdashing, mashing, jumping, right? That's something across like every game. That's something you should probably target first when building your offense, so to speak. That way you can, get the easy stuff out of the way. It's easier to retain information that way too, right? And then move on to like the more specific, more complicated mechanics and whatnot. But everybody's gonna have access to those, so those are like some of the first things you should deal with. Then you can go from there.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
One question, Vinny. If you had like every like I guess current game out right now in front of you, and you had the
Hmm.
chance to change their training mode or like add something to the training mode that like 90% of the games don't have, what would you like add to like these games?
Oh, I knew this question was gonna come. So all I'm gonna say is I would combine Grand Blue versus DBFZ and Skullgirls training mode. Simple as that.
Hmm.
So with Skullgirls, you have the save states, you have the hitboxes, you have the advanced frame data. And it even gives you like a little pixel counter if you show advanced input on like the hitboxes and frame data. It'll give you this pixel count of the move's length and whatnot. It has like a hit stun grid on it as well,
Oh wow.
so you can know how much hit stun you have, which is like perfect for Valentine because she has like a vial that extends hit stun, so you know exactly what you're getting. Um, so that helps with like scaling and optimizing combos and stuff. Um, the save state, like I mentioned, which is godlike from Skullgirls. Grand Blue Versus, I really like the reversal options they have in it. One thing about that game is that the throw system is really strong and it's super important because you have different types of techs. One tech, you can react to, but it puts you in a very bad situation for the defender. One you can't react to, which is you can play around that. Um, in that game, you have counter settings for if an opponent is hit, because you can't convert every move into a combo like you can like Blaze Blue or Dragon Ball, right?
Right.
So there's gonna be those situations where you're negative on hit and you need a response. The game lets you build those responses. You can have a response on the early tech, so it'll come out on the first frame. I was just doing this. Say if you're playing like Catalina and you tech a throw, right? She takes a throw. You're both essentially at neutral, but you know how every game has like this throw tech spacing that's like kind of unique
Yeah.
Yeah.
after you take a throw. Most games don't have like a way for the CPU to respond to that throw tech. Grand Blue does, is godlike, so you know how to respond immediately to the throw tech. It has response for late throw tech. It has response for wake up, for block, hit, etc. So those counterattack settings that they give you, I love it. I want that. And the DBFZ, it gives you the frame data on literally everything, even your movement, even your backdash. It tells you exactly how many frames your backdash is. It tells you exactly how negative you are on it. It tells you exactly how positive you are on like a spaced out fireball, up close, etc. It gives you 8 recording slots, a bunch of character specific setups. And one of the things I really like about DBFZ's training mode is there's this function called repeat randomly. So I'm sure Casey knows about this.
Yeah.
Dragon Rush, they added in like how you can tick throw in a Dragon Rush now with like 5A, right?
Yeah.
Well, like add that to your recordings. You do all these Dragon Rush setups, put it in 8 slots, repeat it randomly, and the CPU will just like cycle between them randomly without you ever having to hit the select button again. So you can replicate what happens in a match, like kind of like real time. And so it's less of a vacuum. I love that.
Nice.
8 recording slots. I've never seen a game that has that many recording slots.
That game needs it, man.
It really does.
So much
It
stuff you
really
have to
does.
look out for.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you have to look out for, and the game's really good with training mode. It has so many options now. So
Yeah.
I would put all of those games, training mode, combined into one. It'd be the best training mode.
There is actually one training mode feature I have yet to see, but it would cover to me one of the most important interactions in almost any fighting game, a round start simulator. If
Oh
a
my
game had
God.
that, I think
Yeah.
that would be godlike in my mind.
Yeah,
I need that in my life. I need that.
I think you can kind of do that with Street Fighter 5 because you know how it has like that little save state recording function you can do.
Yeah.
You can kind of sort of do that with like the delay and stuff. I know every game we have to like figure out workarounds. Like in Guilty Gear, we gotta do like
The double blitz.
synchronized blitz.
Double
Blitz. In Grand Blue, it's like synchronized spot dodge because everyone's spot dodge is like the same frame data or whatever, right?
Mhm.
So we do like synchronized spot dodge. In DBFZ, I know we were doing this for a while. The synchronized Key charge.
Yeah.
Skullgirls. We don't really have that yet.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I don't know the method to do replicating round start, but round start's so important in that game too.
Yeah, like it's just like one of those things, and it just kind of flew under the radar. So it's like in my mind, imagine like you can go and put in a setting, and then when you hit select, it goes round one start, and then the character just does whatever you recorded. Like to me, that would be amazing. But yeah, like you said, we come up with a bunch of workarounds though.
Yeah, we definitely need that. If if we get that for Guilty Gear Strive, I even if I don't like the game, I'll spend time in training mode just for that. Just for that, because that's to me that's the most important phase of a match is round start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
in some games you
especially,
can lose completely.
Yeah, like
I
the
was just
ones we
about to
just
say,
mentioned.
the snowball in current games are so easy to do.
You can. There's definitely been a lot of times I played Skullgirls, and round start did not work out in my favor, especially since that game has like DP assist. And then you get a happy birthday and double snap. Well, the game
Ooh.
from the very first second of the round. We need that.
Yeah, those are all great, like valid suggestions too. That I think I will hope to see in more uh, fighting games later down the line.
Yeah, like Vinny named a whole bunch of great stuff. So like to me, going forward, I feel like there's not much excuse to leaving a lot of this stuff out. Like we've already have the blueprints, we already have the stuff kind of there as a precedent. So like I want to see it in every game going forward.
Yeah, it should be standard at this point. I mean, like the devs should be paying attention to each other. You know, um, even if they're trying to like one up each other, I don't care. We just that needs to be standard in training mode. I feel like just having the tools available for all the players to be able to figure out your game. They'll appreciate that so much. I would appreciate it. I mean, everybody would, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, tools that can help us better put the pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, together are more than welcome.
Take away a lot of the mystery, and like we alluded to many times, it saves a lot of time where you can go like straight to the answer to your question instead of on, I wonder if this really works, or I'm mistiming, or I'm doing this, or I'm not
Hmm.
standing in the right place.
Yeah, the nice thing about it is that you don't have to really account for human error in that sort of thing. 'Cause like we were saying with like the synchronized blitz, there's always that chance of human error.
Hmm.
But if you can have like a CPU do it one frame, get that down perfectly, you never have to worry about that in a real match. Never. So I mean that just goes that feeds back into the refinement thing, right?
Yeah.
Got it down. I mean the game helped you get it down. Then you can take it to a match, perfect it, go back in training mode, do it some more, so you get that consistency up. And generally, what I aim for consistency, stuff like that, and responses, combos, and stuff, I generally aim for things I can do 90% of the time.
Okay. So
One
I
last question.
go ahead, Casey.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had to get this out there. Um, Name three characters that that forced you to go to trainer mode the most in every like whatever.
Yo, Casey putting
Okay,
the spotlight on you today.
I'm sure you already know the answer to this question, but I would say the number one character was 2.0 Guilty Gear Xrd Biken.
Hmm.
That character was unlike any character I ever played before. A lot of people told me I was not gonna be able to play that character. She was very different. Her win condition was very different from anybody else in the cast. The character just came out. Nobody in Japan was playing her. Nobody in America except me, Mystic, LTL, a few others were playing the character. We had about like a boom for like 2 to 3 weeks, and then all the Viking players like they disappeared, and so we were left on our own. So we had to build the character by ourselves without Japan's help because she wasn't good. She was bad. I had a lot of consistency issues too. So man, I spent countless amount of time in training mode with her. So that's probably the number one character.
These also don't
Uh,
have to be characters that you played. These could be characters like that gave you problems too in the past. Or it's like I went to
oh,
training mode, I thought I figured this character out, and I played against this character again, and I have to start over.
All right, how about we just do two lists then? You do your characters you played and characters you played against. We'll make it
okay,
easy.
Yeah, you want to do that? Go
okay.
ahead.
Yeah. The characters I played, like I said, one was biking. Two was 9. Um, probably CF9. Just because there's a lot of mechanics and stuff in Blaze Blue. She was a new character. She was out in Japan for a little while before we got it in the West, so that kind of helped. But we didn't have too many 9 players here, in the West, so there's a lot of character building there. If any of you have ever like seen the character, she has so much stuff. Oh my god, that character has so much stuff. Um, so yeah, she took a long time. Um, I can't really say tag because, I mean, since I had experience with CF, transitioning a tag wasn't too bad. Third character, probably going to be Casey. You're probably
I
familiar
think
with
I
it.
know.
Plus our Eddie.
All right.
Plus our Eddie. That character's took me at least 6 months to a year to actually learn how to play, and a lot of that time was in training mode. This was
Wow.
back when we were in college. Um, I definitely I'm sure Casey remembers. There were times where I would spend like, especially on the days we didn't have class, I would spend literally like 12 to 16 hours a day in training mode with that character.
Oh man, so you really wanted it.
I really wanted it, and my reason for picking up the character was people said that if you could play that character, you could play any character in a fighting game. I wholeheartedly believed it, and I think that still holds true to today. There has not been a character I have not been able to play since I picked up that character.
You went through the struggles, man.
Yeah, and I didn't even know Plus already wasn't that great when I first picked him out. I was just like, I want to learn him. I didn't care what anybody said. I just wanted to learn him. So he definitely took the longest. Milia took almost as long, but she didn't have a puppet, so he was the first puppet character I played, and he was the hardest version of Eddie too. So that took a very long time. I don't think I'll ever be able to my muscle memory for that character will never fade away. Honestly, it never will. Even if I go pick up Zato now, like even after not playing him for a year, I still do some stuff with him.
Man, you like one of those guitar players with all the permanent calluses.
Yeah, yeah, that's me already. Definitely. Characters I played against.
Because I know you had many times where you will play against a character, you do pretty well against them, and then like you play against that character again, maybe in a tournament or another player plays him, you're like, nah, fuck that. This character, or excuse my language, not screw that. This character is a problem.
Who's number one for me? Let me think. Let me do number 3.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Number 3 would probably be Virgil.
Okay.
I
You're not the only one, man.
Oh, I hate that character. Oh my god. It didn't help that I was one of the few people playing Morgan. Probably one of the few down in the southeast at the time in Ultimate Marvel. Nobody was playing the exact team I had except for Xian. There wasn't too much footage of him out there. For reference, my team was Magneto, Morgan, Doom, and yeah, I didn't have too many references to go on to fight that character, and everyone and their mother had a Virgil. I was like, oh my god, I gotta deal with this. And then he was like the natural counterpick to Morgan. So I was like, oh my god, there's no way to avoid this. And there's so many times I would just like lose to that character, just like derping me out with stuff. I'd have to develop a response. Oh my god.
Sounds like somebody wasn't motivated.
I was That character definitely got me motivated. I think once I got good at the matchup, I was able to stomp most Virgil players pretty handily. Um, so he definitely took a while to develop the matchup strategy for. Number two, this is gonna be weird, but Soul Bad Guy actually.
Really?
What's the game?
Yeah,
Huh.
Exert Soul.
Okay.
Um, he took a while for me to like learn the ins and outs of how to actually fight him.
Hmm.
And this is going between like with three characters, so I've had to learn the matchup at least three different times. So I've led the ton against him. Even down to like the tiniest things of like how to respond to like multiple jump P's, when to IB and air throw his strings,
Hmm.
things of that nature. Um, when I can like super specific stuff like how to respond to certain block strings with like say like biking, right? Certain things I can't respond um with like a zombie, right? Um Generally like low air dash jump H stuff.
Yeah.
You can block, guard cancel a zombie, and then if he lands you can cancel that into block or blitz, depending what he does, or you can like kind of try an OS fuzzy jump, stuff like that. Like super specific stuff I've had to learn to fight that character. Um, I would say he's probably taken the furthest as far as like how to learn how to defend.
Hmm.
Because I'm not gonna lie, the character's not easy to defend against.
Right.
Even though he's high low's not that great, like he's like the quintessential Guilty Gear type of offensive structure. Um, I think if you know how to fight against Soul Bad Guy, I think your defense is you have to have good defense. Like once you know how to fight him, I think your defense is pretty good.
Okay.
So he makes you use all the defensive options you can. So you gotta like deep dive into him. Um, Number one. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a lot of characters. I like
No.
all of us that makes us go like, yo, man, I still don't understand. I keep going back to training mode, and I figure some stuff out, but like when I play against that character, it's just a different beast.
What do I want to say? It's it's gotta be Ruby Rose.
Uh-oh. I gotta hear the logic on this one.
Oh man, this character takes no risk. It's like I've spent probably most of my training mode life in BB Tag. Granted, I've been playing the game for like pretty hard for almost 2 years. This character keeps taking me back into training mode, back and back and back and back. It's like I've developed so many notes for this character. Like I feel like I have like 3 pages worth of matchup notes on this character.
You out there writing
And
dissertations, man.
dissertations on this character. And I want to say it all leads back to the same conclusion. Like no matter how many times I know what to do, how the round start goes for a T. I if Let me tell you this. When I see a 9 player and a Ruby player, every second of movement they make, I can tell exactly how the match flow is going. Like
Mm.
even from the slightest air dash to the slightest back dash, I know exactly how the match flow is going to go. Within the first, I want to say 30 seconds, I already know how the match flow is going to go with that. Like for Ruby, your round start has to be perfect. Completely perfect. If you don't get her blocking something immediately within the, I want to say, first 10 to 15 seconds, you're losing.
Mm.
You're losing as 9. You're straight up going to lose. Because you can't stop her 6P. It's too fast. It's the fastest projectile in the game. Um, she can punish all your movement options by option selecting, like all her buttons. So no matter where you move, if your spacing is off by a little bit, you're gonna end up blocking something. And blocking something against her with your movement options expired, you lost. You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose, straight up.
Hmm.
If that character makes contact with you, you have to push block. You're already at a disadvantage because you lost meter. You need that meter to convert. Your meter is put on a cooldown. Every time you use meter, you can't gain it for a while. In BB tag, that's devastating. Especially for a character with poor mobility like mine. One is super fast as Ruby. If you run out of meter, um, you push blocked her, and she gets back on you, you lost. You straight up lost.
That's wild, man.
Um, and every time I go into training mode, like every response I have, even if it's a situation that can work out in my favor, she generally has a response. The only thing she can't respond to is unblockable loops. But you gotta touch her to do that. That's probably the hardest character in the game to touch. One of the hardest. Um, my conclusions all loop back to the same thing: is that I can't beat Ruby. You can't beat her. You, you might win some matches, but you will never have a favorable matchup against her with any 9 structure. As long as 9 is on that team, the team is going to lose to Ruby. Like, it doesn't matter if I beat a Ruby player 100 times in a row. Like, it's still not in my favor. Theoretically, that Ruby player should be beating me 150 times in a row.
Yeah.
My 100. Yeah. So I mean, it's as much training mode as you can do. Some conclusions are going to be absolutes.
Yeah.
And I've yet to see a 9 beat Ruby. Nobody has been able to change my mind otherwise, and everybody has agreed with me.
Yeah, it's not always, you just gotta work harder, because sometimes you go to the end of the rope and it's like, I just can't see it. That's happened to me. That's what's happened to many people. You just have to make sure you did the work, because like I know you have, but a lot of people, they may not have before they jump to that conclusion.
Yeah. So I mean, that's definitely my most played matchup in that game. One of my most played matchups in fighting games in general. 'Cause, I mean, I'm sure you all know who's local, who plays Ruby, who lives like 15 minutes away. 30 minutes away.
Yo, shout outs to temporary East Side.
Oh my god. And I won't lose to other Ruby players in tournaments, mind you.
Yeah.
Because I know the matchup, but, a bad matchup's a bad matchup.
You gotta start beating the player.
As far as, like, even if you develop, like, a super concise matchup strategy, which I feel like I do have against Ruby, like, at that point, if it's a bad matchup, you gotta move on to, the player-specific matchup strategy.
Yep.
That's a whole other topic I can discuss another day.
Hey man,
I definitely have notes on different players. I'll tell you that straight up.
Hey man, you can always come back.
Yeah, definitely. We can definitely have you back, like, talking about like different player matchups and how you do. Yeah, I know you have stories about like losing to people and then like coming back and beating them in a set. I know.
Oh yeah, you gotta identify those player types. That is you. Oh yeah, you gotta know the player types in tournament. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, you kind of touched touched on it when you was like, yeah, you got to play people. That's the big reason why.
That's the big reason why.
Yeah, I learned that from you and LK, like having categorizing like different player types.
Yeah, and I learned that from LK.
It's so good. You need it, man. You need it.
I need it.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say.
Yeah.
On my questions.
I got much else either. How about we do the typical thing, man? Yeah. We already had you do 2 lists. We have you do one more. Your top 5 concise tips for approaching training mode, and just kind of wrap it up as best you can.
So I would say one is for training mode. One is familiarize yourself with your normals. in your move list first of all. That's the first thing you want to do in training mode. That's number one. Two is get down to some combos, combo practice, because I'm not the biggest combo person, but in modern fighting games, combos are essential. Like they're essential. You need to have them consistent. Um, you definitely want to prioritize the combos that you would get from like your combo starters and good moves and whatnot. Things you will generally rely on to hit your opponent. You know, whether it be a poke that you place, a counter poke, an overhead, a low, a throw. Um, get those down to 90 to 95% consistency. Because you're gonna need those to win. Um, three, I would say matchup strategy development. Learn how to develop a matchup strategy. Um, you definitely want to know like your goals for winning a matchup and your win conditions. That's once you identify those, you can go from there. Um, four, I would say this is a little specific to me. It might vary by character and game, but practice your set play. Um, getting a knockdown is the most advantageous position you can have in a fighting game. When you're presented with that advantageous position, you want to make the most of it. Because that can be how you win. I know in fighting games nowadays, getting a knockdown is super important because that's all the momentum. Your opponent's options are limited. You have all the tools available to you, for the most part. Um, and you should probably know exactly what you can do against every character once you knock them down and what options they have. Um, that's something that seems tough, but it's rather simple. You can do it by yourself, so perfect that. And then five, I would say general problem solving. So that's stuff like hitbox exploration. If you're not sure what to do against a throw tag, say like I said with like Catalina earlier, when she throw tag, she has long buttons, right? Um, pretty good at that position. Learn your responses to that. Explore hitboxes, how moves interact, and even like little things that might seem like insignificant. Like say if you have a move that can like low profile or guard cancel, uh, practice that, exploring that, because that can go a long way. Um, and that's generally it. Uh, once you get those down, um, you can really how I want to say those are good baselines to work with when you're going into a match. Those are good points of refinements, things you can see whether they're working or not, and then go back into training mode. Recreate it, loop it, back into matches, rinse, repeat. If you get those down, um, that will go a long way. And once you know how to do that, those kind of things carry between any fighting game. Uh, especially with it makes your homework easier in other games because you already know what to do. That's the gist of it.
That's what's up, man. Appreciate that.
Cool.
All right, well, Casey, any parting words?
No, I just first of all, I just want to really appreciate all. First of all the guests we had in the past, and then like thank you, Vinny, for like coming on this with us today.
For sure.
Really
No
appreciate it.
problem. No problem.
And this
I
that's
guess
about it.
my parting words be like, yeah, on to what Vinny said. Ask questions. Those are the best tools you can use in training mode, in my opinion. If you can do that, then you can ask more questions. You get more answers. But other than that, like Casey said, thank you, Vinny, for coming on, and thank you guys for listening each week. Hopefully, we provided entertainment and information for you each week. So with that being said, Vinny, any parting words? Are you gonna drop your socials? Anything like that? Go ahead.
Uh, sure. Thanks for having me on. You can follow me at NitroNoodlez. With a Z at the end on Twitter. Same with Discord. Same with Steam. Pretty much anywhere. I don't stream too often. When I do, I generally do like matches with like local players and stuff. So you can follow me on Twitch if you want to. I don't stream too often. Um, be sure to just forewarning if you follow my Twitter. Just warning it. But if you ever have questions about tech, especially when it comes to I'd say like Nine, Biken, Narmaya, um, characters like those, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. I have a few guides out there as well that can help you. So, and I admin some of those discords as well. So, if you ever have a question, I'll be happy to oblige. Um, and other than that, just keep hitting up the lab.
All right. Well, got nothing else to say here. So peace.
Yep. Take care, everyone.
Bye bye.